why are we talking about food security, specifically apps that address food insecurity? So let's take a step back and first discuss why we're talking. So we all know hunger, it's a growing global crisis, and we don't have to look far to find it in our own communities. Just last year, the UN reported nearly 2 billion people did not have regular access to nutritious and sufficient. 2 billion people. That's about a quarter of the world population. And the sobering statistic comes with the biggest risk to worldwide health, and that's hunger and malnutrition. The pandemic has only exacerbated this problem. In fact, more than 80%, or 4 in 5 food banks, are serving more people than they did a year ago. So with our modern technological advances and considering that 1/3 of the world's food ends up in landfills, why are so many people still unable to get enough to eat? While there are plenty of solutions to help fight this issue, such as food banks, food stamps, shelters, international agencies like the United Nations, and their sustainable development goals, which we have one of them here, zero hunger, we still have 1 in 4 people on our planet struggling to find food. And no doubt, this issue will continue to require a large and a multifaceted coordinated effort. We all need to work together and approach it from various angles. And one we're going to focus on, how we can shorten that gap between food access with these little things right now on our desks, at our tables, our smartphones. So at TechSoup and as the host, we're having this event today because we are passionate when it comes to technology and using things like smartphones, internet connectivity, training, and more to help fight food insecurity. As food is to the health and development of our children. And again, considering that 1/3 of the world's food ends up in landfills, it's simply unacceptable. You can learn more with anyone you feel that could benefit from it. And we're going to go ahead and drop a link for you in the chat right now. It's rangeapp.org. So Range is just one of many apps out there helping people who are struggling with food access. And I'm super excited right now to introduce today's Public Good App House presenters and their super smart solutions to reduce hunger and eliminate waste. With us today, we have Diane Wartz presenting Order Ahead from Feeding America, Corbridge sharing about fresh EBT from Propel, Ben Shaw showing us Ask Izzy from Infoxchange, Renee Barker from Postmates, and Cheryl Gillihan at CauseLabs. And from wherever you are, they're waving. Let's give them a round of applause for being here with us today, or snaps. And we'll have time at the end of our panelist demos to answer your questions, so do stick around. Okay, so first, we have Diane Ward. Diane executes the managed option of Order Ahead through the Feeding America network of food banks. Diane, a reminder, we might have an issue with your video, so apologies in advance. We're having some issues with the other demo videos here, but you'll still get the information and hopefully we can walk through. And if you need to share your screen, that is available to you as well. So Diane, take it away, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Nicole. I am so happy to be here today to talk about Order Ahead. Order Ahead is a digital solution to food insecurity developed and supported by Feeding America. Our mission is to feed America's hungry through a nationwide network of member food banks and engage our country in the fight to end hunger. And to that end, we provide tools and support to 200 food banks as they provide food assistance to our neighbors experiencing food insecurity. One challenge faced by both food banks and food pantries is reducing the stigma associated with the charitable food experience. So one digital solution to this challenge is Order Ahead. Order Ahead is a web app for neighbors facing food insecurity to order groceries from a food bank and then pick them up at a convenient location. Order Ahead is designed to be easy, convenient, and discreet. It supports no contact distributions. It's customizable for food banks, but also has national scale and support. It is free for both neighbors and food banks to use, and it was co-created with and for food banks. And if I need to, I can share my screen here. Nicole, I will go ahead and do that.
Do that, Diane. Thank you.
Okay.
And a reminder, everyone, you can ask questions at any point in the Q&A, and you can tweet at us. We're at TechSoup with the hashtag Food Apps and Public Good App Pals.
Okay, so this is probably very small, but I will go ahead and talk through it. So when a new user visits orderahead.org, the first thing they do is enter their zip code. That takes me to a page that shows me the pickup locations in my area. I can browse through them either using the map or scrolling through the list. And for each location, I can see the next pickup time available, the approximate distance to my location, the address, and number of pickup times available. I can also click on more info, which takes me to a page where I can see a photo of the location, get Google directions, and view pickup instructions. And if that location works for me, I can choose a day and then the pickup time that works best for my schedule. And from there, I'm taken to the shopping page where I can begin browsing categories or scrolling through the items available. I can add items to my cart, and when I'm done, I can go ahead and check out. The checkout page allows me to review the pickup location and time and change that if needed, and then view the items in my cart and make any changes I desire. And then I can continue shopping or check out, where if I'm a returning user, I'm prompted to enter my email and password. Otherwise, if I'm new, I can sign up, where I'm taken to a page where I can register using my name, email address, zip, and phone number. And then I can also specify if I want to receive reminders via email, text, phone call, or some combination. I can then choose to be remembered on that device. And then I'm asked about my food situation. Over the past year, how often did you feel the following were true? We worried our food would run out. The food we bought didn't last. We got food from a pantry, soup kitchen, or other source of charity. That's followed by a brief demographic survey around household size and ages, and I'm also asked to enter my address. And lastly, asked to certify that all the data is correct.
Great.
From there, I can see my order confirmation with details. I can change the location or time or cancel the order. And at the same time, I'll be receiving an email confirmation, and there'll be 2 more reminders sent out before the pickup date. And then my final step as a food insecure neighbor is to pick up my order. So that is Order Ahead and where we are today. So far with Order Ahead, we have reached thousands of families. During beta and pilot testing, we found that we are indeed reaching new clients. In fact, about half of users have never been to a food pantry or have not visited in the past 12 months. And we're finding demand is very strong. Food banks are finding that their operation costs are decreasing over time. And it's also, they're finding that Order Ahead is flexible, so they can use it in a variety of ways. There are food banks using it for curbside pickups, deliveries to homebound seniors, and order pickups at college campuses and school pantries. And as we continue to onboard and support food banks with Order Ahead, we're considering how we could use this digital link in the future. So we're continually gathering ideas and inspiration from our member food banks, as well as the neighbors that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Really appreciate that. And we'll, again, be able to include the link to the slides where you'll get to see the video up close and personal. So thank you for sharing that, Diane, and looking forward to taking some questions from the audience at the end of today's event. Stick around. So up next, we've got Jen Corbridge, and Jen is going to give us a look at how Fresh EBT from Propel works.
Thank you, Nicole. Before I introduce myself, I want to thank TechSoup for inviting Propel to participate in this event alongside organizations doing really incredible work. And given these trying times, it's never been more important. That being said, my name is Jen Corbridge, and I'm the Public Partnerships Manager at Propel. I am the Public Partnerships Manager at Propel, and we are a mission-driven technology company that builds modern, respectful, and effective technology that helps low-income Americans improve their financial health. And the principal way that we do that is through Fresh EBT. And Fresh EBT is a smartphone app that allows anyone with an EBT card to easily check and manage their SNAP balance. So the problem. Prior to Fresh EBT, SNAP customers had to dial a 1-800 number, enter an EBT card number, which is like 16 digits, follow all the prompts, often in the middle of a grocery store shop with kids running around just to find out how much they have to spend. And given that 71% of low-income Americans have a smartphone, we found it interesting that few financial tools were being developed for their needs, and specifically for those receiving government benefits. So the solution, we created Fresh EBT, and that is a tool that makes checking and managing your SNAP balance just a click away. Not having to call the 1-800 number is easier, more modern, and more discreet for households using government benefits to track and manage their finances. Next slide. So in addition to making it easier for households to check their SNAP balance, we also use Fresh EBT as a point in time to connect with families with relevant and useful resources. So this is ways to reduce costs and save through coupons and special offers, and jobs to increase income, leading ultimately to greater financial stability. For example, in this slide, SNAP households that use Fresh EBT are able to extend their benefits an extra 2 days, which at that 3-week mark is not nothing. Fresh EBT is available for free in all 50 states and territories and is currently used by 4 million SNAP households. Our users tend to be a bit older, to be female, and to have school-age children in the home. Okay, so yes. I'm going to try and share my screen too.
Thanks, Jen.
Sure.
No. Let you know as soon as we see your screen.
Can everyone see my screen? Oh no, why?
Not quite yet. Yeah, no worries. There we go. We're in business.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to kind of give you a brief demo. So anyone could download Fresh EBT for free from either the Google Play Store or the App Store. And you enter your 5-digit zip code to find your location, to create an account, and you enter all the relevant information to create your account. And I'm just going to log into a dummy account so you can see the features in the app. And so that once you log into the app, it brings you into the main page where you can see the food stamp balance and the various features, the spending history of where you've shopped at last. And there's a manage, save, and earn feature alongside a couple of just for you features at the bottom. We also have a benefit programs update in Georgia, which is where I am, where you can access, where SNAP households can access information about program updates, which given COVID, there have been a lot. Help for renters being one of those things. We partnered with a tool to help make it easier for SNAP households to access the CDC declaration. And then finally, we go into the save feature where there are a number of ways to save, and you can click on the see all coupons for stores in Georgia where those coupons are available. And finally, the earn page where you can apply for jobs right in the app within 5 miles of Athens, Georgia, which is where I am. And finally, we have a map that basically shows anywhere where you can use your food stamps, whether it's at a supermarket or a farmer's market, where the food pantries are, etc. And that is a brief sort of overview of the app. And so I would be remiss if I didn't sort of mention the pandemic in more detail and the disproportionate impact it has had on low-income households across the country, particularly on families with school-age children. And I'm sure the work has changed for many folks participating in or attending this conversation today. So we started receiving many questions from FreshEBT users when the first of the relief packages was passed. And we realized that FreshEBT was well positioned to help communicate the rapid succession of policy changes, whether that was about SNAP or housing or utility shutoff moratoriums, all of these programs being sort of crucial to the lives of low-income households. Next slide. And so given that, it became clear that a benefits policy update feature was needed and necessary. So in the first 2 weeks of March, we stood up the COVID Help Center. And this is a feature that tracks and distills benefits policy information so that families can plan their financial lives with the most up-to-date information. I will leave it at that. And again, thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
We're really happy to have you, Jen. Thanks so much. We've got some more fantastic panelists coming up sharing their solutions with Ben Shaw up next from Ask Izzy. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you can take it away. It's all you.
Wonderful. So this is an introduction to Ask Izzy, and I am Ben Shaw. If we can go to the please. I would just like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Eastern Kulin Nation, who are the Indigenous owners of the land on which I live. This is something we like to do in Australia increasingly. For those who haven't seen it before, that is a map of pre-colonial Australia. I would just like to pay my respects to the people of this land and perhaps ask you to reflect on doing the same, please. So we've got 5 minutes. I'm going to quickly go through who am I. I'll do that in about 2 seconds. What Infoxchange and Ask Izzy is, and take you through how it works and some things that we're working on next. Yes, I'm Ben Shaw. I'm the product manager at Ask Izzy. Product manager is a newish sort of role that we're building within the social innovation and digital inclusion branch of Infoxchange. And it's a sort of exciting time for us to be working on some things like apps and things that work to help people experiencing food insecurity and other sort of vulnerabilities that we know are around in this year, 2020. So lots of words on that slide, but effectively Infoxchange is something that started in 1989 here in Melbourne, Australia, with a crisis accommodation bulletin board service pre-internet. And over the subsequent 30 years has sort of evolved into a tech services company that supports the community and not-for-profit sectors. And then in 2014, we actually won a Google Impact Challenge to take some of the amazing sort of directory and information and data that we had and package that up in a package that actually worked directly for help seekers. So rather than just working with the community sector and the social services sector, delivering something directly to people in need of help. This started with a real focus around people experiencing homelessness and rough sleepers. But over time has really expanded to acknowledge the fact that anybody at any time can find themselves in a tricky situation and need to find help nearby. These are our freshly baked stats from last financial year for Australia. So as you can see, we're looking at millions of searches a year, and food is this by far and away the biggest category that people are looking for. Obviously, we know that it's also very interconnected with some of these other things, and that just getting someone a meal does not equal food security. Certainly during COVID and the long lockdown we've had here in Melbourne, we've seen things like everyday things and money help really start to lift up as people sort of move beyond, well, I've got a meal in my stomach, but actually now I've got all these other sort of things that I need to address that are going to make me feel like I'm secure and not sort of slipping further into crisis. Demo time. Okay, that video is not going to load, which is fine. I will try and actually load the thing itself. Let's see how we go with that. Great. So Ask Izzy is hopefully on your screen right now. A couple of things. This is actually not an app. It's actually a website optimized, obviously, for mobile things. I'm happy to talk at length after this about why we chose to go that route and why we may one day choose not to. But for now, askizzy.org.au will bring you to the site if you want to play along at home. Pretty simple interface. There's a free search, and then there's this sort of series of categories that we have on the homepage. Obviously, because we're talking about food security today, it probably helps look at food. You'll see a little thing around our beta and pandemic support that I'll hopefully talk a bit about at the end. But essentially, there's a few pretty simple questions that's going to ask you. Where are you? It's obviously a key one. What kind of sort of food support you're looking for. And obviously, depending on the category, there'll be a range of different questions. We might ask questions around age or potentially other things around your situation that help us find you a better result. But for food, ultimately, it's just about where can I find it? And, you know, you'll get a list of services. You can see them on a map. And you can sort of dive deeper into any one of those to sort of see some information, link to Google Maps, that sort of thing. We have around, the number is somewhat subject to change, but over 370,000 services across Australia, across a bunch of different categories. And I suppose our special sauce really is not any magical tech. It's the fact that we are funded by philanthropic partners and by government to actually update this data. So we have a team of updaters. We are working on automating and working with, you know, APIs and that kind of stuff. But really right now, the grunt work is done by a bunch of people who sit there and call people and Google search and work really hard to make sure that our data is sort of as up to date and robust as possible. And I think that's really, you know, we talked to a lot of people in the sort of directory space and they sort of say, how do you do it? And that's sort of the key answer is you've just, at the moment, we've just got to have humans because there's so much nuance around, I suppose, opening hours, particularly during COVID, what's actually available now, how are they acting now versus later. These organizations don't, you know, necessarily have the time or inclination to come and update our directory, so we need to be very proactive in reaching out to them. One thing I will just very quickly show you, I suppose, so with coronavirus, and as some of you may know, Melbourne went through, I think, one of the longest lockdowns in the world, and we're just sort of coming out of it now. We've obviously been very busy during that, finding out about the way that people's needs have changed, the kinds of things they're looking for have changed. And we've started to put together a bit of a beta that really explores more around how people experiencing vulnerability due to COVID might want to navigate these kind of services. And as others will know, probably much better than I, the profile of people seeking help has sort of changed. A lot of people seeking help for the first time. A lot of those things that were spoken about by Jen, I believe, about, you know, stigma and not wanting to seek help. So we've started a beta that we're starting to sort of explore some different options around there, more sort of information provision, different ways of getting people to the information and sort of making sure that they're getting the help that they need. Yeah, so if you want to know more and get more involved, I can't believe I left the actual Ask Izzy URL off there, but askizzy.org.au, take a look. You can read more at about.askizzy, or you can even try a beta. And we are in discussions with a bunch of partners all over the world at the moment about how we can sort of take our learnings and what we've known, having been in the space for about 5 years now, to help others scale their reach and impact. So more than happy if you reach out to me. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ben. Now we have Renee Barker, who's going to talk about Postmates and how Postmates is bringing solutions to the table when it comes to creating food security. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Nicole. Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Barker, and I'm the Food Systems Sustainability Manager for Postmates. So I'm here to present a little bit about our program called Food Fight and why Postmates want to get involved in food security. So 40% of all food in the United States is wasted, unfortunately, and a majority of that, about 75%, ends up in the landfill. 18 million is the estimated tons of food waste generated by the hospitality sector, and restaurants and food service account for 94% of that. And of course, Nicole shared a lot of these stats at the beginning of the program, but 1 in 8 US households do not have enough food to eat. And this number might actually be rising because of COVID-19 and service shutdowns and just increased food insecurity all around. However, Postmates has an opportunity here to make an impact on those numbers. We cover about 80% of all US households, and food delivery is our strength. We built Food Fight to address these issues in the communities that we operate in. It's a program from our Civic Labs department, which is our social justice and social impact department, where we focus on food systems sustainability, community engagement and disaster relief, and advancing diverse-owned businesses. Food Fight helps restaurants reduce waste while also helping people in their community. In speaking with our partner restaurants, we found that many wanted to do both those things, but needed help with the logistics side and where to actually start. So with Food Fight, we are primarily working with smaller donation sizes from a large variety of restaurants. This is a free program for both our partner restaurants and for the agencies that sign up to receive food. So how it works on the restaurant side, they all have Postmates tablets that they use to manage their orders and deliveries. So on that tablet, they have the option to request a Food Fight pickup. Once they press that button, a driver is called to come pick up and deliver the donation to a nearby agency. Agencies set the days and hours of the week that they would like to receive food when they sign up. So it's an automatic process that the donation is routed to the nearest available agency once that button is pushed. And here is a short demo of how it functions on the tablet. It's very short. So this will show, usually this is a zoomed in portion of a block that would be on the tablet homepage. So the restaurant clicks request pickup. They have the opportunity to enter the approximate weight of donations, which is how we're tracking how much we're doing. And then the button changes to in progress instead of request once they are completed that. And then for the driver, the Food Fight pickup request looks the same as a normal pickup request on their apps. Because there is no tipping in this transaction, Food Fight deliveries are paid out at a slightly higher rate to those drivers. So there's no reason that they would see a request and not want to take that on. And this is where we need help now. So we're already across the country in 43 states, but we know that we could be serving more communities. We are still onboarding new agencies to receive food, and that is actually how we unlock more restaurant participants. So for every agency that signs up with Food Fight, we unlock all of our partner restaurants to be able to donate with Food Fight within a short distance from them. Agencies that sign up have to be able to receive both perishable and non-perishable food, since that is what we see from restaurants. And we work with all kinds of organizations. We can work with churches, food banks, food pantries, shelters, transitional housing, senior programs, programs that do outreach for people who are experiencing homelessness. We're not picky as long as it's helping an organization that is getting food to people who need it. Since we began Food Fight about 2 years ago in some pilot cities, we had around 40 deliveries a month, but now we are pushing past 700 deliveries a month. So even though COVID-19 has been really tough on a lot of small businesses, including restaurants, we're still seeing a big increase in those restaurants wanting to give back to their communities and using services like Food Fight to do so. Good food isn't garbage, and together we can get good food to those in need and fight to make food insecurity in our country a thing of the past.
Thank you, Renee. We will now have Cheryl Gillihan join us on camera. Hey, Cheryl. And
hi there.
Yeah, so we're excited. Design thinking principles to provide healthier food options. Cheryl, thank you for being here, and take it away.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you to TechSoup. And I am so inspired by all of the presentations that we've seen today. It's been really amazing. And I've been looking at chat as well, and I can see just from the way that people are phrasing some of their questions and comments. Some of you are familiar with human-centered design. So CauseLabs is a tech agency using technology to create positive impact in the world and to grow that impact and scale it. And so we're not focused solely on food insecurity. However, when we train our team in human-centered design, we always start with a problem statement. And the one we started with in 2020, Nicole, was how might we provide healthier food options for people in need? For those of you that have taken the IDEO.org and Acumen Academy Human-Centered Design course, this is one of sort of the 3 problem statements that you're presented with that you can choose from. And so I'm not going to go through a whole 12-week course of human-centered design and design thinking for you, but I will give you kind of like a 3-minute recap of some of our experiences and things that we went through and how we start as a tech agency before we even start building any of the apps that we've been presented with today. Like, there is a starting point of identifying, like, why do we need to build something who are we serving and what is it that we need to build to solve that problem? And in this particular problem statement, you know, there are a lot of assumptions behind this. So we start there, we start with our assumptions and we say, okay, let's break this down. We had 6 people on the team when we were going through the course this last time, and we said, okay, what do they mean by healthier foods and what do they mean by people in need? And so we all have different life experiences, we're bringing different things to the table, and so we all had different assumptions and we all had different knowledge, but we take this and we go into the inspiration phase, Nicole. And so in the inspiration phase, there are a few different types of methods and exercises that we can actually go through. One of them is actually learning from the people. And so we did a series of surveys and interviews and just reached out to everybody that we can think of, and particularly trying to identify like who are the people that we're going to serve with this application that we're potentially going to build, like what problem are we really solving? And so some of us ask questions about, what do you think healthy food is? And then some of us asked questions about, you know, what does it mean by people in need? And so we broadened our interviews to include people with disabilities, people who are blind, people who are undergoing cancer treatments, people with allergies, people who, you know, don't have any control over the food that they receive, for example, elementary school children or seniors who are receiving Meals on Wheels or something like that. And so we just did a wide sort of survey of users to identify like, what don't we know about this problem statement? The other thing that we do is we actually reach out to the experts. We went to local food banks and did interviews. We observed, we spoke to co-founders of the local community farms and food deserts locally here in North Texas. And we spoke to leading dietitians and we tried to understand like, what is it that we don't know about healthy food? When we're asking a question about healthy food, are people just assuming that we're talking about fresh produce and we're talking about salads all the time? Are we talking about, you know, 3 meals a day? Are we talking about a balanced diet? What is it that we really need to understand about health? And then we immersed ourselves in the situation, and we actually went and volunteered and experienced what it was like to work at one of the community farms and, you know, watch people that are in these food deserts, watch elementary school students during meals, and just threw ourselves into a situation where we could just observe what was going on. And so we had a lot of different sort of scenarios that we threw ourselves into. The next one. Oh, it's showing those pictures individually. So from each of these experiences that we had and all of the research that we did, all of our various team members pulled out what we have, what Human-Centered Design course calls GEMS, what we call insights. But then we take all of those insights, we categorize them all, and we identify, are there things that are related throughout these? You know, are there things that can be categorized together? And then we pull out the things that we're really interested in solving a problem around. And in that, we come up with our emergent themes. So we haven't even thought of a concept yet. We haven't even put pixels or pen to paper or any pixels on a screen. We haven't developed a single line of code. We're just trying to identify like, what's the problem? And, you know, especially this year, we've seen a lot of changes and there are some assumptions that I can make. For example, here in North Texas, Keller ISD just made all of their meals at schools free. So that's breakfast and lunch meals free for all students. And my assumption in that, being sort of in this mentality of approaching things from a human-centered perspective, is that free and reduced meal applications are based on income from a previous year. You can't base income this year from 2019. Things look very different now. And there are people that are experiencing food insecurity that, you know, their last year's income may not reflect that. And so my assumption is that they didn't know how to tackle that problem. And so they have just made it accessible for all students, because their problem statement is, how do we make sure that these students have meals and they're not suffering from food insecurity? And so there are a lot of things that all of our organizations are sort of tackling and our community members are tackling and trying to understand that, like, the information, the paperwork that we have to fill out to qualify for some of these benefits, are based on data that is false if you're looking at the reality of your day-to-day life in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of the crisis that we're dealing with this year. And so understanding the real problem that we're solving and creating a tool specific to that is really important. So you'll see that we had 3 emergent themes when we went through this course in March, and it's because we had such a broad range of users that we were actually learning from. And we're not an organization that tackles hunger specifically, or tackles, food insecurity or homelessness or people with disabilities. I mean, our user base is so broad. And so without knowing a specific user that we're targeting, we could build anything. And when you can build anything, you end up with 10 different apps, 100 different apps. And so to sort of tackle one, we needed to know, okay, what were the emergent themes that came out of this? And each of those has its own problem statement. And so it has its own, how might we support this or that? It's a different user, it's a different audience, and it's a different solution that we're actually tackling. And so we did go down the path of choosing one of these emergent themes and sort of designing around that, different concepts, and doing that brainstorming. But we do have a partner that we partnered with starting in 2017 called Fresh Food Connect, and they had 2 different user stories. One was, how do we sort of prevent food waste from the urban growers? There's a lot of produce that they produce that can't necessarily be eaten by their family. What do they do with that produce? And how can we serve those that are in food deserts that don't necessarily have access to healthy foods? And so putting those 2 things together, they actually came up with a solution called Fresh Food Connect. So you can find out more about Fresh Food Connect at freshfoodconnect.org. I didn't want to demo the app because we haven't worked on it in the last year, and it's probably undergone a lot of changes, and I didn't want to demo an older tool or an older version of it that I have. But they have definitely seen an increase in food insecurity. They started out in the Denver, greater Denver area, and actually have grown to scale their program nationally. So you'll see that in the last stat there, that operators have grown 75% nationally. But when they launched the app, which was in the summer of 2017, they actually saw an increase in gardener participation as well. And just in this year, so their 2020 impacts, they're projected to reduce or redistribute, I should say, 20,000 pounds of produce to those for hunger relief organizations. But that's reducing the impact on the landfills and that food waste that we were talking about earlier, and some of the other organizations here shared. This is a very different app from the other apps shared today, and that's the importance of design thinking and going through that strategy phase. I mean, you can go 3 months, 6 months without ever writing a line of code, because you need to identify specifically what it is you're going to build to see this kind of success and to see this kind of growth. To have 1,400 people with increased access to fresh foods, that doesn't happen because you had an idea and just started coding right away and started designing right away. It takes that time and effort to really understand your users, understand your needs, and understand how to tackle all of the different user stories and use cases that are around that. All right, so defining the problem is sometimes the biggest problem, and so we can absolutely help you with that, but we also have free resources. IDEO.org and Acumen Academy do a free human-centered design course every spring, so that's definitely available to you. Because of COVID-19 and coronavirus and the quarantine, everything has been taken virtually. They recommend in that course that you meet in person with your groups, but we have some digital templates that we've actually put up on our website to host all of these sessions virtually with your team or with a group of individuals, maybe partner organizations. Happy for you to download those or download any of our free resources. We really want people to do some design thinking and really tackle food insecurity and other problems from a human-centered perspective and create the impact that we want to see in the world. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. Really appreciate that. And at this I hope you're all feeling really revved up and getting those question juices flowing, because we are moving to Q&A now, and I'll welcome back us on camera so we can see your smiling faces there. Excellent. All right, so we do have some questions lined up already, but if there's something that comes to mind for you, now's the perfect time to ask. So head on over to your Q&A tab. You'll find that if you go to your chat tab, and then underneath that, you'll see a tab for general, and then right next to it is Q&A. And there you can see all the questions that have been asked so far. You can upvote your favorite one and add your own. And once again, we are at TechSoup, and using the hashtag in Public Good App House, those hashtag streams is a really good place to see other conversations that are happening out there. And we've also got the Twitter handles for each of our panelists as well. So again, thank you to everyone for presenting, feeling incredibly inspired, lots of great ideas here. And so let's move into our first Q&A question. So I think this is a good one for us to go down the line here. And I see right now, right, it might be different for everyone else, but I see Ben. So I'm going to kick this question to Ben first. But how does your team come up with these creative programs? And how can we bring this into our own team? So we'll let everyone take a go at.
I lost the end of you there, Nicole, but I think the question is around how we come up with these programs. Yeah, I mean, all of the things that Cheryl talked about, we spend a lot of time trying to think about the problem. And I think that's our biggest challenge. We are really fortunate in that, you know, we are funded and supported by both the business of Infoxchange and our philanthropic partners to have a team around this product. Whereas previously it might have been this sort of like, you know, you get some funding and you make a cool thing, and then the funding goes away and the thing just sort of coasts until it dies. You know, Infoxchange has made a commitment to us because he's sort of continually improving and developing. And again, yeah, it's just humans sitting down and talking to the people that are impacted by these things, and trying to work with them to figure out solutions.
Great. Thanks for that, Ben. And Jen, would you like to hop onto that question? So how does your team come up with these creative programs, and how can we bring these concepts and these ideas into our own teams?
Sure. I think one of the superpowers that was illustrated earlier was listening, right? So when we first were starting out, going out into the field and talking to people, we initially, our founder and CEO, Jimmy Chen, wanted to make a tool to help make it easier for people to apply for SNAP. And then once we started talking to people, we found that that wasn't really the pain point that people were worried about. It was this, I need quick and easy access to my benefits. And people were using all manner of tricks to kind of keep track of their benefit amount. And so I would say that if you're trying to solve any social problem, I think it starts with listening to the folks who are impacted by the problem before deciding you know what the problem is. And I think that goes back to what Cheryl was saying about human-centered design.
Appreciate that response. Thank you. Let's have another panelist. Renee.
Yeah, so I would echo a lot of what's been said about listening. Postmates built Food Fight to really hone in on a very specific niche in the food insecurity world with our restaurants and with agencies nearby our restaurants. So we definitely had to listen to what the needs of restaurants were, how they operate, how we can integrate this more seamlessly into their current operations, and try to not have it be an additional burden for them to figure out how to do this on their own. And then for agencies, talking with agencies that we work with, we found that many wanted prepared foods or had services they wanted to provide where they were giving out food to people that needed to eat it right then, or didn't necessarily have ability to open canned goods or cook a meal. So definitely listening on both sides of that, and trying to find a connection where we can have a big impact and still serve both the needs of the restaurants and the agencies.
What's your name? Cheryl, what would you add to that?
I think I went through our whole process with the design thinking.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, it's definitely the approach that we take. And even when somebody comes to us and says, we want to build an app, we ask them all of we go through the same process, and it might be a little bit more expedited, but we definitely go through that process of identifying, you know, are we solving the right problem.
Thanks. And Diane.
Yeah, I think we went through a lot of the same steps that other panelists have talked about. We asked a lot of questions. We interviewed a lot of neighbors to find out what their challenges are, and then we have a really great innovation team that came up with the idea of order ahead, and then fleshed it out with feedback. Did a ton of beta testing to make sure it was actually answering the challenge we hope to take care of. Yes.
Great. And then I'm going to toss this question back your way. If you can share some benchmark data that you use to measure the success of order ahead.
Yeah, so we are basing our decisions on both quantitative and qualitative data. So of course, wanting to know number of clients that were serving pounds of food, pickups that are completed, but then also, again, asking questions of those neighbors, making sure that the service is helping them, that they're seeing the kinds of products that their families are hoping to see, that the process is easy. It really is, does hit those points of being non-stigmatized and private and convenient, understanding that folks facing food insecurity have a wide range of other challenges too, with time and schedules, and so really wanting it to be as easy as possible. So we took to task with collecting data to help us move ahead.
Great, and I think this is a great one and really interesting to hear from other panelists too. We can just go popcorn style, but we'd love to hear other that you're using to measure the success of your programs. So anyone who'd like to hop in, please do.
I can go next. So for food, we're looking at metrics. One that I mentioned was deliveries per month. But in addition to that, we have thousands and thousands of restaurants that have the ability to press the Food Fight button, but we're looking at how many are actually pressing the button. So not just those with the option. And that has been a number that we're really trying to grow. So currently we've donated over 240,000 pounds of food since the program began about 2 years ago. And we have a little bit over 1,000 restaurants participating. But over 30,000 restaurants have the option to participate. So that is something that we're really working on, trying to communicate the program better, trying to reach out to restaurants better, and making sure that we're providing something that they need while helping people in their community and getting that number of actual restaurants pressing the button up.
Great. Yeah, Jen, Ben, or Cheryl, would you like to chime in on that too in terms of benchmark data that you use to measure the success of your programs?
I mean, look, it's a huge challenge for us. We know a lot about the numbers of users, but Ask Izzy is anonymous by design. So, and really the solution, I suppose, to the problem we're trying to solve happens after you've used our app. So, we hope that somebody gets connected to a food service or a homelessness service. And we're currently sort of looking at ways of, well, how do we sort of get back at the end of that loop and actually figure out, well, that's great, someone found a food service, but did they go there? Did they get a meal? What was their experience like? Should we be promoting that food service more or less, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of thinking going on at the moment in that space. And if there's anybody who's an expert in that and would love to talk to me, I would love to hear from them.
Yeah, I'm happy to weigh in.
Great.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, obviously the number of monthly active users is a benchmark for us, right? And so measuring how often people are logging in and using the app, and monthly active users is probably people are logging in to check their balance and do other things at any time, anywhere from 10 to 15 times a month. And then when we're trying to sort of fine tune, it's also sort of an anonymous process. We don't know the names or anything of the people that use FreshEBT. So when we're trying to create features or gauge whether a piece of content is helpful, we're measuring how many people, like whether or not people are engaging with that content, how often they're engaging with that content, in order to really like make sure that what we're offering inside the app is useful to people using FreshEBT.
Excellent. And Jen, would you like to tie up that question before we move on? Oh,
Was Jen?
that was Jen. Carol. I'm looking at multiple screens. Carol.
Yeah, so we're a technology company, and so those benchmarks are usually set by our partner organizations, and it varies, but similar to what Diane said, we use both qualitative and quantitative data, and so it's not just numerical data that we're looking at. We're also looking at testimonials and actual stories of, who is using the applications, how is it serving them, what are the things that could be improved, and so we look at it from the technology perspective of how can this user experience be improved to really serve the need that's out there.
Excellent. Great. And we've got a great reminder to all of our attendees that you can head on over to Q&A, drop your questions in there, and we're taking those now. So let's move to this question from Howard. Howard asked, do all the apps work as well in all the areas? For example, Howard's in Oakland. So if you could talk a little bit about maybe some geographic boundaries that exist with your apps, and perhaps I'll add on to this. Are you thinking about scaling, and what comes with that thought process, and scaling and moving to other cities?
I can go first. So for Food Fight, Food Fight is available wherever Postmates has restaurants. So it covers a lot of the United States, but it is definitely higher coverage in more urban areas than in rural areas. And for how we're scaling, we would love to be in all 50 states. We would love to be in all cities that we are operating in as a food delivery service provider. And for agencies that wish to sign up, we enable all of our partner restaurants within about 5 kilometers from an agency location. So that's kind of the radius that we're using to determine Food Fight donations.
Excellent.
Yeah, I can speak to that too. So Feeding America does support 200 food banks across the country. Our goal is to be in as many of those areas as possible. We are just exiting pilot phase, so we hope to be ramping up very quickly, but those 200 food banks work with about 60,000 partner agencies and touch almost every county in the country. So so there is a huge potential to have order ahead in all areas of the country.
Talking about scaling and where else, maybe I can point it to Ben. Some base, is that correct, or did I miss something about scaling?
It is, which is why I was sort of sitting this question out. It's probably of not huge value to, well, there are some people from Australia in the chat, I think. So we are Australia-wide. I suppose we have the same challenges as everybody else, though, in that coverage is big in some areas, less in others. Those that have been to Australia will appreciate that it's large urban concentrations and then vast sort of areas with lots of really small pockets, and the challenges of meeting service needs in those two areas are radically different, right? So I can do you a demo and show you something in Melbourne that shows you 20 pins on a map. If I'm doing something in the Western Desert, you're going to get 1 pin within a 2,000 kilometer radius. So there is a challenge there for us as well.
Great. And in addition, I know we haven't had everyone answer this question, and that's okay. We can always on. But if there is something you still want to add about intentions around geographic scaling, or at least just thought process on that also have this question about intentions for scaling to non-English speakers and disability access.
Maybe I can pick that up. I mean, we are, I think, as I mentioned, in discussions with some people in Ireland, a group in New York City called Street Lives, if people are aware of those, and some other groups across the US, I think in particular around, how our sort of framework can help, ideally would be at the point where we have a sort of app that we can hand over and you can drop your data in and it works for you. So we're not constantly sort of reinventing the wheel around this sort of directory thing. With the thing around language, that's a big one for us as well. We have, like I said, over 300,000 services, so there's no way that we're ever going to go through and translate every single one of them. But there is a lot of interesting work on how we then direct people who don't speak English as a first language to to somebody who can help them to navigate the system. And I think that sort of system navigation thing is a big thing we come up against time and time again, whether it's food, clothing, housing. Just showing someone the address is not necessarily the best thing all the time. It's like, how can we get them to a human being who can help them out in their language?
Yeah, I'll add to that as well and just say that when we're building apps, we don't have any food insecurity apps or food related apps that are translated yet. So I don't believe that Fresh Food Connect is translated, but we do have several apps that have multiple language translations in them, some of them up to like 16 languages. And so from a technology perspective, when we build those, because we do a lot in the translation space, when we build those, we build it so that not just one language can be added. You can add as many languages as you want. So, there are 7,300 languages in the world if you're talking about all the languages. And so we build in the capability for translation, and then you just add whichever language you want to add. And from an accessibility perspective, that's just kind of a requirement these days in building apps. It's becoming more and more required, especially if you're working with anything that's government funded.
Great. Any other reactions to this question around scaling and thinking about access for people with disabilities?
I'll just share that FreshEBT is available in Spanish, and I think we have aspirations to translate it into more languages. Some of the things that we've heard around access as it relates to folks with disabilities is that FreshEBT actually makes it easier in a lot of ways than calling the 1-800 number. But again, we're always sort of on the lookout for ways that we can be more accessible, both in terms of product and the language that we use to describe the tools that we build for folks.
And then I'm going to bounce this question back to you, Jen, around FreshEBT and if there's an API. And it looks like IAIR asked this question. IAIR says that they think the mutual aid networks could benefit from this. So would love to hear if FreshEBT has an API. And then I want to open that question up to other panelists and thinking about the ways that other organizations can pull data in and out using your option. So we'll start with you, Jen.
So we do, in the sense that USDA database map for food pantry locations, WIC and SNAP offices, but that is it. Again, I don't know the whole answer to this because I have the least tech job at the tech company, so forgive me for that. But the answer is no.
Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else want to comment about having open APIs? Is that something that you're utilizing?
So I'll comment on Fresh Food Connect, since I did kind of share that at the end of my presentation, in that it doesn't have an open API. So there is an API there, but to my knowledge, they haven't necessarily opened that up yet for other developers to be sort of working and building apps alongside of it and app integrations.
I would say ask me that question again next year on this date, and hopefully I'll have a better answer.
I think someone else is going to chime in.
Yes, so Renee with Postmates, we do have our API available for access to our fleet of drivers. So we have worked with some nonprofits who have their own clients that they wish to serve, and they just need help with that logistics portion. So we do have, it's called our Postmates dashboard, where you sign in and you can request deliveries similar to what a restaurant is doing with the Food Fight program. So it is separate from Food Fight, but it can be used in a very similar way.
And well, maybe you might want to try questions still, so there'll still be the opportunity, but I know we're at time here. There's still so many great questions. And again, I thank everyone for your engagement today. These are fantastic questions, and we are definitely going to look at every single one of them and get them to the panelists. And I know as well in the slides, we have contact info there. So if you have additional questions, you'll be able to reach out. Again, we want to reward this engagement, this curiosity, which I saw other superpower, actually several people put down curiosity. So lots of great here. Engagement coming. You can continue this conversation in our community forums. We have Stephen on the TechSoup side who posted a link to that. And again, we'll include a link in our follow-up email there. So Just before we go, I'd love just round robin here to have each panelist share, like, what is the top thing that you want everyone here to walk away? And how about an order on the side here? So sorry to put you first, but Diane, it's all you. So one thing that you, whether it's about your solution or just about the issue, what would you like people to walk away with today?
Yeah, that is putting me on the spot, but I will say it's a really great question. And I think what I would say is, even though with COVID and other challenges and things that are causing an increase in food insecurity, it's really great to hear that there's so many different kinds of organizations stepping up and doing their part to help end that food insecurity. And it just makes me feel more optimistic about the future, seeing these and hearing these other panelists, and then also seeing and hearing all the really thoughtful questions that have coming through the chat.
Thanks, Diane. And a trooper for taking it on first. It's a heavy question. Let's move to Jen. Jen, one takeaway today.
I think that low income generally been overlooked, particularly by technological solutions, right? And I feel very hopeful that, like, given this panel and this conversation, that is changing. I mean, we've been in this space for 5 years, and low income households deserve and should have a wide variety of technology tools that help them manage their financial lives. That also kind of like corresponds to them managing their food insecurity. So I would say just keep on doing this fabulous work. Again, I feel very honored to present here alongside so many innovative and creative individuals, and I look forward to continued conversations.
Thank you, Jen. We'll bump it to Ben.
Yeah, I mean, as a technically non-technologist working in a technology company, I always get in trouble for this, but I think my big takeaway, and we've heard this today, is that, you know, all this fantastic technology out there right now, the tech's easy. It's the humans that are hard and complicated. And if you can understand what it is that people really need and how you're really going to deliver value, there's bound to be some sort of technological solution out there that's going to help you get there. But if you start with the tech first, you're quite likely to make something expensive that nobody wants to use.
If I said the tech's easy, my development team would not let me live that down.
Hopefully they get the bigger holistic picture though, but fair enough.
So true.
Fair enough. And Cheryl, why don't we go to you before we end with Renee? What is your one takeaway that you really want people to walk away with here today?
I think I agree with everything that everybody's said already. But, you know, the one takeaway is we don't know what food insecurity looks like. We all have our own assumptions about these topics. And so we really do have to understand the people and the people that we're serving. And, you know, the tech is easy. I mean, it's not the biggest problem. It's the people. So I would definitely agree with that. And I think, you know, food insecurity can affect your neighbor next door. It doesn't look the way we think it looks.
It's going, doesn't look the way we think it looks. And Renee, your takeaway.
Yeah, so I also want to kind of end on a really optimistic note so in the past 2 years, this month of November was the most amount of food donations we've ever had. So I think that's so encouraging that people really want to help each other out and people want to give back in their communities. And everyone here and everyone attending, of course, is in this space and wants to do that too. So I just think that's really wonderful.
Words of wisdom, continued inspiration. I thank each and every one of you for spending time with us today, spending time with the TechSoup community, sharing your solutions, sharing what worked, what hasn't, and we will just keep learning together. So again, thank you, and to our attendees for all participating, being part of this conversation, and it doesn't end here. Keep it coming. We have our community forums, which we will share in our email. It's also have lots of chatter going on, so it's somewhere buried in there. And then my colleague Eli has also dropped a survey there. It just has 7 questions. It'll be super quick. That really helps us understand what were your takeaways and how can we prepare for future events. So please, a reminder that we will be sharing the slides with the videos in addition to a replay from today's event, so you can watch it at your leisure, and any links that we included in chat, again, for your convenience, so you spend more time with this content and also share it with other people that you think would have benefited. And on that note, we've got some great upcoming TechSoup virtual events. We have one later this week on nonprofits must optimize year-end fundraising. And then we've got another one coming up about service design for all, how to bridge gaps in your nonprofit's service delivery. You can learn more about these events at tech-community-events. And with that, we thank you all again. Please make sure to fill out our survey, and we really look forward to seeing you around another TechSoup event. Thank you again. A round of applause for our panelists for being here with us, and be well, take care. We will see you all soon again. Bye, everyone. Thank you.